President, Shiite militiamen are scouring southern Lebanon for Colonel Higgins, the American kidnapped last week, and you've expressed a determination to get him out. Can you say that the same intense efforts, the same kind of dragnet will be used to find the other American hostages, one of whom, Terry Anderson, is about to mark the end of his 3rd year in captivity?
We have never given up on that. It's, as you can realize, it's very frustrating to try and establish a location, knowing, of course, that you are governed by the fact that unwise action on our part could bring about harm to the hostages. But we've never let up, and we never will, in trying to obtain the freedom of all the hostages.
Sir, Pat Robertson said today that his Christian Broadcasting Network once knew the location of American hostages in the Middle East and that the United States, in effect, missed an opportunity to rescue them. I understand he's clarified that remark, but I wonder if you have any thoughts about the tone that he's setting in this campaign.
Well, all I can say, I don't want to comment on the campaign, but I can only say this, that it'd be very strange if he actually did have information as to the location of those hostages. Isn't it strange that no one in our administration was ever apprised of that? We have tried our best and through every kind of channel to establish their whereabouts, because that's the beginning of efforts to try and get them free. But if he thought that he knew, he kept it to himself. Trudy?
Mr. President, as of now, is there any change in our policy of not talking with PLO in light of the fact that there are reports out of Geneva that Mr. Arafat is now ready to accept UN Resolution 338 and 242?
Well, I know that this is one of the things we're pursuing, if he really is, and if he is willing to acknowledge the right of Israel to exist as a nation. This has been one of the blocking points, that how do you sit down and try to get into a talk about peace when someone says they have no right to even exist? And I'm sure that the Secretary of State is apprised of that fact, and we'll see what we can do there.
And given may I follow up? Yeah. And given the 40-year hostility in the area which has been built up, how can you, as the great communicator, try to alleviate some of the antagonism between the Israelis and the Palestinians before you leave office?
Well, we are trying to, and we'll continue to try to. That's a goal that I would think would be one of the greatest achievements of this administration, if before I leave we could bring about a peace in the Middle East. Charles?
Mr. President, whom precisely are you criticizing when you say that the riots are not homegrown and not spontaneous?
Well, we have had, it's a little difficult for me because there's some things that I shouldn't be saying, but we have had intimations that there have been certain people suspected of being terrorists, outsiders coming in not only with weapons but stirring up and encouraging the trouble in those areas. Now, that isn't something you can go out and say we absolutely know, but certainly the violence is both ways.
It seems, sir, that that's still a generalization if you say some people from the outside. Can't you not be specific and say just who it is?
No, because I get into areas there that would be violating security rules, and I don't think I should.
PLO, Russians?
What?
PLO, Russians?
No.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that in 1985, your National Security Advisor, Robert McFarland, briefed you on the Iraqi pipeline project and gained your approval for it. In light of the difficulties that your Attorney General, Mr. Meese, is encountering now, could you explain your position on the pipeline and tell me if you think it was a good idea at that time?
I have no recall of knowing anything about this pipeline plan until fairly recently, and then found out with regard to the transmittal of the letters that have now been turned over to the special investigator. And this was about the first information that I recall having. Now, I can't say to you that something that I was given information earlier because I just have to tell you, if I was, I have totally forgotten it. I have no knowledge of anything of that kind.
Mr. President, does it trouble you at all that your dear friend, Mr. Meese, has become entangled in this project, and it has yet been another case which has brought him some would say embarrassment?
Let me just say one thing. I have every confidence in his integrity. I have known him for more than 20 years, but I cannot comment in any way on this case that is now before a special investigator. No,